Okay, now I'm going to take a look at camp shoes, which, if you don't know, are basically shoes that you take with you in your backpack so that you can air out your feet and be a little more comfortable once you arrive at camp, once you're done hiking. And I guess first off, would I recommend camp shoes? At first, when I first started my hike, I really didn't know if I really wanted shoes. I'd never brought camp shoes before backpacking. It never really seemed like an issue to me. But when you're hiking often and big miles, it really is very nice to have camp shoes at the end of the day. And not only that, say you've got wet shoes, it's been raining, having something dry to go to is really nice. And just being able to air out your sweaty feet, have your feet not enclosed in something nice and open air, let them dry out a bit. It's good for recovery, and it's good for not having any foot issues such as fungus or stuff like that. You really don't want to enclose your foot in a wet shoe for a long period of time, or even a dry shoe that's just damp with sweat. So I do recommend taking some type of camp shoe. There are infinite options available. I saw so many different types of camp shoes on the trail. But basically it comes down to, do you want a closed-toe Croc type shoe like this, or do you want a sandal? And I started the trail with these. These are just Walmart brand knockoff Crocs, basically foam plastic shoes. And they're nice. They offer a little protection of your feet. They keep a little bit of the dirt out, I guess, which isn't really that big of a problem. And they are durable. And as compared to the sandals, these are actually what I took on most of my hike, and I'll explain that later. These are open, and you can't wear socks with them. That's basically the biggest issue, or the biggest deciding factor, I guess, between what type of camp shoe you want is whether or not you want to wear socks. If it's going to be really cold, I would go with a shoe like this, so you can wear your socks in, your toes aren't going to get cold. With this, you can still wear a sock, but it's kind of restricting. I mean, you have that little piece of sock stuck between your toes, so it's not the same, but it's a lighter option. These shoes, I can't remember how much they weighed, but they're significantly heavier than this pair of sandals here. These actually look heavy, but they're really light. They're a Eva Mush Sandal, I think they're called. I picked these up somewhere along the way for $10. They were on sale, and these are really light and really comfortable. I never had the issue with the socks and cold feet, because most of the time I wore these it was warm weather. It really wasn't that big of a deal. When it did get to be cold weather later in the year, up towards New Hampshire and Maine, I just wore socks with these, and it really wasn't that big of a deal. So ultimately I recommend these sandals, but you can go whatever way you want. One benefit that these do have, or another benefit I should say, is that some people ford streams in them. When you get up to Maine, if you're through hiking, you're gonna have to cross streams with no bridges, so you basically have to walk through the stream and ford it. With shoes like these, especially Crocs that have the back strap here, which are a little better but a little heavier as well, you'll be able to wear these through the creek if you have sensitive feet and you don't want to go barefoot through the stream. I always just forded barefoot. I never had a problem. Some people don't recommend it because you can get your feet stuck in rocks or step on something that is sharp. I never had that problem, and I don't even think it really is that big of a problem. But if you want something to ford streams in to protect your feet, shoes like these are going to be better than sandals, which will fly off and aren't even really an option for fording. So I started the trail with a cheap pair of Crocs. I got rid of these pretty early on and got a cheap pair of Walmart sandals like these, except even cheaper. And those lasted for a long time. They served all the purposes they needed to. I got around camp in them. I went and got water in them. I set up camp in them. They were fine in the rain because really there's not that many big mud puddles. You'll be walking on leaves mostly, so your feet still don't really get wet, even if you're wearing socks with your sandals. And the only time I kind of wished I had shoes like these were if it had rained for a couple days straight and it got really muddy. Then sandals like these would slide around a little bit and you would get some mud build up on the side, and your socks, if you were wearing socks, would get a little muddy, or your feet would get a little muddy. Not really a big deal, but something to consider. So that kind of wraps up. There's not too much more to say about these. Actually, one other thing, these are a lot more compact. You can stick these in a pocket like this, or I always hung them from the toe straps like this on the back of my pack. These are a little different. They're bulky, and don't forget that they're heavier than sandals, so they're harder to find a place for. I would still hang these from the back of my pack, but they took a lot more space up. Ultimately, I recommend sandals, but this is it's 50-50. You can take whatever you want. You'll take a little bit of a weight hit for shoes like these, but they might be worth it for you. So that's camp shoes. And I'll be making more videos soon, so stay tuned.